Chapter 5, How to Approach God. In truth, all Vedic literatures directs the human being towards the perfect stage of devotion. The paths, the paths of fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, and meditation do not lead one to the perfectional stage, but the Lord is actually approachable by one who follows the process of devotional service. Therefore, all the Vedic literatures recommends that one accept this process. In this regard, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted from the Lord's instructions to Uddhava in Srimad Bhagavatam, "My dear Uddhava, neither philosophical speculation or nor meditational yoga nor penances can give me such pleasure as devotional service practiced by the living entities. I am dear only to my devotees and I can be achieved only by devotional service. Even an extremely low born person will become free from all contaminations if he takes to my devotional service. Devotional service is the only path by which one can achieve the Supreme Person."
Devotional service is the only perfection accepted by all Vedic literatures, just as when a poor man receives some treasures, he becomes happy. When one attains to devotional service, his material plans are automatically vanquished as one advances in devotional service as attains love of Godhead. And as he advances in this love, he becomes free from all material bondage. One should not think, however, that the disappearance of poverty and the liberation from bondage are are the goal of devotional service. Love of Krishna, love of God is itself the goal, and it consists in releasing the reciprocation of loving service with the Lord. In all Vedic literatures, we find that the attainment of this loving relationship between the living entity and the Supreme Lord is the goal of devotional service. Our actual functions is devotional service, and our ultimate goal is love of Godhead. Therefore, in all Vedic literatures, Krishna is the ultimate center, and through knowledge of Krishna, all problems of life are solved. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then quoted a verse from the Padma Purana. There are many different Puranas with instructions for worshipping different type of demigods, but such instructions only bewilder people into thinking that the demigods are supreme. Yet, if one carefully studies the Puranas, he will find that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the only object of worship. For example, in the Markandeya Purana, there is a mention of Devi worship of the goddess Durga or Kali, but the in this same Puranas it is also stated that all the demigods, even Durga, are but different energy of Vishnu. Thus, the study of the Puranas relieves Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be the only object of worship. The conclusion is that directly or indirectly, all types of worship are most or less directed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita confirms that one who worship the demigods is in fact worshipping only Krishna, because the demigods are but different parts of the body of Vishnu or Krishna. But that such worship is irregular. Srimad Bhagavatam confirms these irregularity relative by answering the questions. What is the purpose of the different types of worship described in the Vedic literatures? In the Vedic literatures, there are various divisions. One is called the Karma Kanta, which described purely ritualistic activities, and another is the Jnana Kanta, which describes a speculation on the supreme absolute truth. What then is the purpose of the ritualistic section of the Vedic literatures, and what is the purpose of the um, Upasana Kanta, which contains different mantras or hymns for worshipping various demigods, and what is the purpose of philosophical speculation on the subject of the absolute truth? Srimad Bhagavatam replies that in actuality all of these methods described in the Vedic literatures indicates the worship of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. In other words, they are all indirect ways of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Describes the content in the ritualistic portion of the literatures are meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Indeed, because Yajna described is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Another name of Vishnu for Vishnu is Yaj, Yajneshwara, or the Lord of sacrifices.
Since neophytes are not on the transcendental level, the Vedic literature advises them to worship different types of demigods according to their situation and the different modes of material nature. The idea is that gradually such neophytes may rise to the transcendental plane and engage in the service of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, the Puranas advise the neophytes attached to eating flesh to eat it only after offering it to Goddess Kali. The philosophical sections of the Vedic hymns are intended to enable one to distinguish the Supreme Lord from Maya. After one understands the position of Maya, one can approach the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. That is the actual purpose of philosophical speculation, and Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita. After speculating for many, many births, the philosophical speculators and empiric philosophers ultimately surrender unto me, Vasudev, and accept that I am everything. It can thus be seen that all Vedic rituals and different types of worship and philosophical speculation ultimately aimed at Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told Sanatana Goswami about Krishna multiforms and his unlimited opulence. He also described the nature of the spiritual manifestation, the material manifestation, and the manifestation of living entity. In addition, he informed Sanatana Goswami that the planets in the spiritual sky, known as Vaikunthas, and the universe of the material sky are different types of manifestation, for they are created by different energies, namely the spiritual energy and the material energy, respectively. As far as Krishna himself is concerned, he is directly situated in his spiritual energy, or specifically in his internal potency. To help us understand the difference between the spiritual energy and material energy, the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam gives a clear analysis of the two. Sridhara Swami also gave a clear analytical study in his commentary on the first verse of the Tento 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, expecting Sridhara Swami as an authorized commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted his commentary as follows: The 10th canto of the Bhagavatam describes the life and the activities of Krishna because he is the shelter of all manifestations. Knowing Krishna to be the shelter of everything, I worship him and offered him by sense. In this world, there are two kinds of principle operating. One principle is the origin or shelter of everything, and other principle are derived from his original principle. The supreme truth is the as- asraya, the shelter of all manifestation. All other principles which remain under the control of the asraya tattva or the absolute truth are also asraya or subordinates, corollaries and reactions. The purpose of the material manifestation is to give the conditioned soul a chance to become liberate and return to the asha, ashraya tattva or the absolute truth. Since everything in the cosmic creation, which is manifestation by Krishna Vishnu expansions, is dependent on the Ashraya Tattva, the various demigods and manifestation of energy. The living entities and all material elements are depend on Krishna or on Krishna for Krishna is the supreme truth. Thus, Srimad Bhagavatam indicates that everything is sheltered by Krishna directly or indirectly. Consequently, perfect knowledge can be had only by an analytical study of Krishna, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Chaitanya then asked Sanatana Goswami to listen attentively as he described the different features of Krishna. First, the Lord informed him that Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is the absolute supreme truth, the cause of all the causes, and the origin of all the emanations and incarnation. Yet in Vraja or Goloka Vrindavan, he is just a young boy. His form is internal, full of bliss and full of knowledge absolute. He is both the shelter of everything and the proprietor as well. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead with a body of full knowledge internally and bliss. He has no origin. He is the original person known as Govinda and is the cause of all causes. In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave evidence that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, full in all six opulence. His abode, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is the highest planet in the spiritual sky.
Ayushi Mataji. In addition to this, he quoted a verse from Lord Chaitanya, quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. एतेषां तु कलापुंसा कृष्णस्तु भगवान् स्वयम् इन्द्राणि व्याकुलं लोकं मृदयन्ति युगे युगे. All the incarnations described previously are direct expansions of Krishna or indirectly expansions of the expansions of Krishna. But Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. He appears on earth in this universe or any other universe when there is a disturbance created by the demons who are always trying to disrupt the administration of the demigods. There are three different processes by which Krishna can be understood: the empiric process of philosophical speculation, the process of meditation according to the mystic system, and the process of Krishna consciousness or devotional service. By philosophical speculation, the impersonal Brahman feature of Krishna is understood. By meditation or mystic yoga, the supersoul, the all-pervading expansion of Krishna is understood. And by devotional service, in full Krishna consciousness, The original personality of Goddess Krishna is realized. In this connection, Lord Chaitanya quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajna jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdate. Those who are knowers of the absolute truth describes the absolute truth in three features: the impersonal Brahman, the localized all-pervading supersoul, and the supreme personality of Godhead Krishna. In other words, Brahman, the impersonal manifestation, Paramatma, the localized manifestation, and Bhagwan, the supreme personality of Godhead, are one and the same. But according to the process adopted, he is realized as Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagwan.
By realizing the by realizing the impersonal Brahman, one simply realizes the effulgence emanating from the transcendental body of Krishna. This effulgence is compared to the sunshine. There is the sun god and the sun itself and the sunshine, which is the effulgence of that original sun god. Similarly, the spiritual effulgence, Brahma Jyoti, the impersonal Brahman, is nothing but the personal effulgence of Krishna. To support this analysis, Lord Chaitanya quoted an important verse from the Brahma Samhita, in which Lord Brahma says, I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, whose personal effulgence is unlimited, Brahma Jyoti. In that Brahma Jyoti, there are innumerable universes, each filled with innumerable planets. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further explained that the Paramatma, or the all pervading feature situated in everybody's body, is but a partial manifestation or expansion of Krishna. It is for this reason that Krishna is sometimes called Paramatma, the Supreme Self, the soul of all souls. In this regard, Lord Chaitanya quoted another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam concerning the talks between Krishna and Balaram. Why are we so much attached to Krishna? To this question, Shukdev Goswami answered. Krishna should be known as the soul of all souls, for he is the soul of all individual souls and the soul of the localized Paramatma as well. At Vrindavana, he acts just like a human beings to attach people to him, and so that he is not formless. Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme Lord is as much an individual as other living beings, but he is different in that he is the supreme and all other living beings are subordinate to him. All other living beings can enjoy the spiritual bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge in his association. Next, Lord Chaitanya quoted a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna, while telling Arjuna for of his different opulence, indicates that he himself enters this universe by one of his plenary portion, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and also enters into each universe as Shirodakshai Vishnu, and then expands himself as the super soul in everyone's heart. Lord Chaitanya then said that if anyone wants to understand the supreme absolute truth in perfection, he must take to the process of devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. Then it will is possible for him to understand the last word of the absolute truth. Chapter 6 is
His forms are one and the same. By devotional service, one can understand that Krishna, first of all, manifests himself as Swayam Rupa, his personal form, then as Tad Ekatma Rupa, then as Avesh Rupa. It is in these three features that he manifests himself in his transcendental form. The feature, the feature of Swayam Rupa is the form by which Krishna can be understood by one who may not understand his other features. In other words, the form by which Krishna is directly understood is called Swayam Rupa or his personal form. The Tad Ekatma Roop is that form which most resembles the Swayam Roop, but there are some differences in bodily features. The Ekatma Roop is divided into two manifestations, the personal expansion and the pastime expansion. As far as Avesh Roop is concerned, when Krishna empowers some suitable living entity to represent him, that living entity is called Avesh Roop or Shakti Avatar. The personal form of Krishna can be divided into two, Swayam Roop and Swayam Prakash. As far as the Swayam Roop or pastime is concerned, it is in that form that he remains always in Vrindavan with the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This personal form, Swayam Rupa, can be divided into Prabhav and Vibhav, Vaibhav forms. Prabhav and Vaibhav forms. For example, Krishna expands himself in multiple forms during the Rasa dance in order to dance with other and every gopi who took part in that dance. Similarly, he expanded himself into 16,108 forms in Dwarka when he married 16,108 wives. There are some extensive instances of great mystics expanding their body by the yoga practice, but Krishna did not expand himself in this way. In the Vedic history, Saubri Rishi expanded himself into eight forms by the yoga process, but those expansions were simply reflections. For Saubri remained one, but Krishna manifested himself in different forms. Each and every one of them was a separate individual. When Narad Muni visited Krishna at his different palaces in Dwaraka, he was astonished at this. And yet Narad is never astonished to see the expansions of a yogi's body since he knows the trick himself.
Srimad Bhagavatam describes Narad Muni's astonishment at seeing Krishna's expansions in Dwarika. Narad wondered how the Lord was present with his queens in each and every one of his 16,108 places. With each queen, Krishna himself was in a different form, acting in different ways. In one form, he was talking with his wife. In another form, he was um, petting his children, and in another form, he was performing some household duty. These different activities are conducted by the Lord when he is in his emotional forms, which are known as Vaibhava Prakasha expansions. Similarly, there are other unlimited expansions of um, Krishna's form, but even when they are divided or expanded without limit, they are still one and the same. There is no difference between one form and another. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that when Akrura was accompanying Krishna and Balaram from Gokul to Mathura, he entered the waters of Yamuna river and could see all the planets of spiritual sky. He also saw the Lord in his Vishnu form, as well as Narad and the four Kumaras who were worshipping him, as stated in Bhagavata Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam. The Supreme Lord's worshippers, the Vaishnav or Acharyas, are purified by various processes of worship. They perform according to their convictions and spiritual understanding. Each process of worship involves understanding different forms of the Lord, as mentioned in the scriptures. But the unlimited idea is is to worship the Supreme Lord Himself.
In his Vaibhava Prakasha features the Lord
In his Vaibhava Prakasha feature, the Lord manifests himself as Balram. The Balrama features is as good as Krishna himself. The only difference, difference being that Krishna's bodily uh, hue is blackish and Balrama's is whitish. The Vaibhava Prakasha form was also displayed when Krishna appears before his mother Devki in his in the four-handed from the Narayana. Just when he entered the world, then at the request for his parents, he transformed himself into a two-handed form. Thus, he sometimes manifests four-handed as sometimes two. The two-handed form is Vaibhava Prakasha and the four-handed form is Prabhava Prakasha. In his personal form, Krishna is just like a cowherd boy and he thinks of himself in that way. But when he is in the Vasudeva form, he thinks of himself as the son of uh, Kshatriya and feel like a Kshatriya, a princely administrator. In his two-handed form as the cowherd son of Nand Maharaj, Krishna fully habitates his opulences, beauty, health, attractiveness, and pastimes. Indeed, in some Vaishnava literature, it is found that sometimes in his form of Vasudeva, he became attractive to his form of Govinda in Vrindavan. Thus, as Vasudeva, he sometimes desired to enjoy as Govinda does. Although the Govinda form and the Vasudeva form are ultimately one and the same. In his regard, there is a passage in the Lalita Madhva in which Krishna addressed Uddhava as follows: My dear friend, in the form of his cowherd boy Govinda, attract me. Indeed, I wish to be like the uh, damsels of Vraja, who are also attracted by this form of Govinda. Similarly, later in the Lalita Madhva, Krishna says, Oh, how wonder it is! Who is this person? After seeing him, I am so much attractive that I now desire to embrace him just like Radhika. There are also forms of Krishna that are little different from his original form, and these are called Tattva Ekta Ek, Ekta Rupa form. These may be further divided into a Varsila and Swamsa form, which in turn have many different features and can be divided into Prabhava and Vaibhava form. As far as the Valisa form was concerned, there is an innumerable Prabhava Valisa headed by Krishna expenses as Vasudev. Sanskar Sana Pradma Yumna and Aniruddha. Sometimes the Lord think of himself as the cowherd boy and sometimes he think of himself as Vasudeva's son, a Kshatriya prince and his thinking of Krishna is called his pastimes. Actually, he is in the same form in his Vaibhava Prakasha and Prabhava Valisa, but he appears differently as Krishna and Balram. His expansion as Vasudeva, Sanskar, Sana, Pradma, Prad, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are the original Chatur Yuvaha or four-armed form. There are innumerable four-arm manifestations in different planets and different places. For instance, they are manifested in Dwarka and Mathura eternally. From the four original four-handed form are manifested the 24 principal four-armed form, which are called Vaibhava, Vilasa. They are named differently according to the placement of the conch, club, lotus, and dice in their hand. The same four principal manifestations of Krishna are found on each planet in a spiritual sky, known as Narayan Lok or Vaikunt Lok. In Vaikunt Lok, Krishna is manifested in the four-handed form of Narayan. From each Narayan are manifested the form of Vasudeva, Sanskara, Pradma, Yumna, and Aniruddha. Thus, Narayan is the center, and the four form of Vasudeva, Sanskara, Pradmayumna, and Aniruddha surrounds the Narayana form. Each of these four forms again expand into three, and these all have different names beginning with Keshava. These forms are 12 in all, and again they are known as different names according to the placement of the symbol in their hands. As far as the Vasudeva form is concerned, the three expansion manifested from him are Keshava, Narayana, and Madhava. The three forms expanded from Sanskar Sana are known as Govinda, Vishnu, and Sri Madhu Madhusudhana. It should be noted that this Govinda is not the same Govinda manifested in Vrindavan as the son of Nanda Maharaj. Similarly, from Pradyumna expand the three form known as Tri Vikrama, Vamana, and Sridhara, and the three form expanded from Anuruddha are known as Harikesha, Padma, Padmanabha, and Damodara.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. तो ये चैप्टर थोड़ा कंफ्यूजिंग लग सकता है कि ये क्या चल रहा है। तो बेसिकली इसमें भगवान के जो एक्सपेंशन होते हैं, भगवान के तो अनंत अवतार हो सकते हैं। तो भगवान अपने खुद को कैसे कैसे अलग अलग रूपों में एक्सपेंड करते हैं उसके बारे में है। और भगवान विष्णु के रूप में उनके हाथ में चार चीज़ें होती हैं, द फोर हैंडेड फॉर्म ऑफ नारायण। तो हम उसमें देखते हैं शंख चक्र गदा और पद्म। तो शंख चक्र गदा पद्म के अलग अलग पोजीशन के हिसाब से उनके अलग अलग नेम्स होते हैं। और उनके प्राइमरी जो फोर एक्सपेंशन है वो है वसुदेव, संकर्षण, प्रद्युम्न, अनिरुद्ध। तो ये अलग अलग तरीके से पूरा एक्सपेंशन होता है, तो हमें इतनी जल्दी समझ में तो नहीं आएगा, लेकिन फिर भी अगर हम रीड करेंगे तो इससे भगवान तो प्रसन्न होंगे। और जब हम इसका श्रवण करेंगे कि कैसे ये सारी चीज़ें होती हैं, तो हमें और अच्छे से समझ में आएगा। तो फिलहाल ये टीचिंग्स ऑफ लॉर्ड चैतन्य ये बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट बुक है, क्योंकि चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने जो भी इंस्ट्रक्शंस दिए थे उनके अलग अलग डिसाइपल्स को, उनके अलग अलग पार्षदों को, तो वो इन सब में है। तो जो चीज़ें एक्सपेंशन जो कि भगवान की मतलब पोटेंसीज के बारे में है, वो चीज़ें अगर हमें नहीं भी समझ में आएंगी तो भी कोई बात नहीं है, लेकिन जो इंस्ट्रक्शन है जो हमें फॉलो करने हैं आगे भक्ति में बढ़ने के लिए, उसको हमें अच्छे से नोट करना चाहिए। ओके, तो